Good afternoon, Facebook and YouTube audience. This is Jennifer Noreen. I'm here with Gary Parker, the BBQ2U boss in Gig Harbor, Washington. If you don't know, and if you're just tuning in for the first time, Gary owns a restaurant called BBQ2U in Gig Harbor, right next to the Ace Hardware store off of the Olympic Drive exit. He's become quite famous for his brisket and other smoked meats. Gary is from Austin, Texas, so it's kind of a central Texas approach to barbecue. Hello, Gary. How are you?
Good morning.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
If I watched football, I would watch the Horns if I still lived in Texas. So yes.
There we go.
So we have some new fun things going on at the restaurant. One of which is the Frito Pie. We're going to talk about fan favorites today, but Frito Pie is one of those fan favorites. So what's up with Frito Pie, and why did you add it to the menu?
Well, we're going to start at the beginning first. Let's talk about what fan favorites are.
That's a good point.
Why is there a category around fan favorites, and what are they, right? The idea when back home and you'll see this a lot in Southern cookbooks and everything else. There's simple meals, full meals, okay, and the tactical side of things that we put in the fan favorite side is really what I like to call energy food. Okay, so if I'm a kid and or I'm playing football or I'm doing something right, and I'm gonna need to really get my energy levels up, right? What are the things I'm gonna want, right? I'm gonna want a high protein meal along with a high carbohydrate meal, right? And so you see this all through the South, right? In cookbooks and with casseroles and various combinations of things, and they're all real high flavor, protein carb type things, right? So that's the overall reach of what these types of meals are. It's what we grab for lunch, right? Because we don't time is money, and we don't have time to sit around and particularly when you do a lot of things in the work world, the blue collar work world, you got 30 minutes for lunch, right? And you're trying to get as much protein and carb in you as possible, because a lot of times you're working on a rig, or if you're doing some type of those kinds of jobs, right? You don't need to be getting hungry in the middle of those shifts, right? And so we do a lot of that kind of stuff in the South, right? Industrial stuff, and so the barbecue culture has done a couple of things. One, we want to keep a full meal at a reasonable price. Okay, and I'll compare that for you too. When you go down fan favorites, it's not much more. It doesn't really cost much more than a heavy duty meal at McDonald's or something like that, right? But what you've got this quality meat. You've got these potato salads. You've got these bean dishes, right? That are very flavorful, right? And you'll notice when you eat them, right, that your body doesn't maintain that hunger anymore. Remember, once you start eating them, your body goes, "Oh, I really like this. You're doing a good job," and it turns the hunger pain off, right? And then it's portioned such that it's for the average person, it's a full-blown meal that will carry you through most of the day. Okay. And so we try to do different flavors of this stuff at a reasonable price, because not everybody wants to come into a barbecue joint and have a tray, right? Where they come in and they do 3 meats and 2 sides and 4 beers and this kind of stuff. That's just not something you can do every day, particularly if you're out on a lunch break, right? So good menus, good barbecue menus will usually have this section, right? That's out there, and it's for those of us that live on a budget and really need quality food to eat, because we're putting out a lot of energy, right, in the things we have to do. And it's really not all about just the working people. I use that as an example, but you could be everything from a mom trying to get her errands done during the day, to a professional, right, that doesn't want to get too overloaded, right? Or you can be the work guys, right? So they're there to fit all needs for all people at a reasonable price. That's the purpose of that section of the menu. It gives you an alternative to trying to do the big trays and full-blown meals. Although those are great too, but I understand they don't always fit your schedule, right?
So it's also easy to cash and carry. It's easier to order these foods and just be gone. I mean, it's just easier to hand your kid. It's easier to take to a picnic. They're self-contained.
Kids particularly like these things, right? Because they get a little bit of everything they want, right? Yeah, the picture in the background that you're showing with the brisket, beans, and potato salad, that's more or less an adult version, but you convert that very quickly to the brisket, mac and cheese, and maybe a coleslaw or something like that, right? Or you can do the pulled pork with the coleslaw and beans and have a little bit of a Carolina style, right? If that's your flavor, right? So you're also allowed to mix and match some of these things on the more sophisticated ones that we have. So we'll go through them real quick. This is a classic favorite. You also, by the way, as trivia, you'll also see these a lot at county fairs, right? Or racetracks, or various places where people gather for weekend entertainment, and they're looking for substantial food at those places, other than junk food. And so a lot of the barbecue guys, particularly in Texas, will be out at those events, and they'll have quick build things like this that they can serve a lot of people really quick with, right? So, for example, this one that you're looking at now, which is pork loaded fries, this is just a great thing. You've got the potatoes again, right? And then you've got the, for your carb and starch, right? And then you've got that high protein of the cheese and the pulled pork on top of it. And if you really want some zing with it, you put that sweet and tangy sauce that we have with it, and it's a beautiful meal, right? And it'll fill you up, and it will hold you all day long, right? And you won't an hour after you eat lunch, you won't be getting hungry again. Of course, you might
Yeah.
want something sweet. That's another story. That's why we have the candy aisle over there at BBQ2U too.
There's a decent amount of construction workers and line workers and,
Yeah.
people that you can tell are out doing physical labor that I see a lot in the lines in your store. And I'm sure it's because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
what you're saying. They're looking for a legitimate meal, right?
Looking
So
for a
I
legitimate
agree
deal
with
at a
you.
reasonable price, right?
Yep.
And so these things are good. Of course, our chili, we keep that going all year round. This picture shows the chili, but just as we poured in about 2 pounds of brisket, because I really like adding that brisket into this cowboy chili that we have. I have to say cowboy chili, or we'll get 12 comments about that's not Texas chili. Because it's got beans in it the way I make it. But this is really a cowboy chili, and a cowboy chili is really defined as whatever you got. It's tomato based and beans and various things. You just throw it in there with a lot of chili seasonings, right? And that's how you really make cowboy chili, especially when you're out. You're out on the pastures overnight, and you've got to make something hearty because you've been working all day because you've been trying to chase down cows or feed them or get the hay out or go inspect them. There's hay.
Yeah.
Wow. It's great campfire food too, right?
So thus the name cowboy chili. So do I have to pay extra for brisket, or does brisket come in all
The
of your
brisket
chili?
comes in it. Brisket comes in
Okay.
the chili, so it's already there.
Got it.
And so it's a great fan favorite too, particularly around here when fall comes in and we start to get that, and winter's in here, and we get
Yeah.
that really cold, I call it refrigerator weather because it takes you right to the bone. You're walking around in it so much, right? You
Yep.
want something warm and hearty in your body, right, to give you fuel and give you heat. And the chili is just a wonderful thing for that. And the brisket and all the smoke from the brisket comes out and embeds itself in
Yeah,
the chili.
it's super
You
yummy.
get
It
the
makes a
flavor.
difference. Yep.
Now, my favorite was the one you're kind of got a close up on it, but this is the boat. Again, this is a real popular item down where I come from. This is actually, believe it or not, this is a two meat, two side meal, all in the boat, right? So what do? We're crafty in that we powder this thing after a banana split, right? And that's what we love to talk about and tell people. So you can see, you got the pulled pork in the middle, as kind of one of the what you would normally see as one of the three flavors of the ice cream. You get the beans, you got a hot side, you got a cold side in this particular picture, and then we split that brat sausage down the middle, right? And just like you would see done on a banana split with the bananas, right? And so we call it the boat, right? Because banana split boats is what you're used to when you go to an ice cream parlor. So we try to make it look like that, and it's really just a fun thing to do. But what it is, it's really filling. People that have had this comment on it is like, man, he says that's a hell of a meal. That's two meats, two sides, and then you add the drink with it. You got everything you need, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
it goes
tricky. It
great
doesn't
with
look
that.
like a lot of food, but I can't finish them. I mean, it's a
Yeah, you
lot of
can't
food.
finish them. I mean, big guys like me, we can eat the whole thing, but man, we don't eat for the rest of the day. When we have one of these at lunch, right?
Right.
We're probably done
Yep.
eating for the day. You
Yep.
know. This is a nice favorite, particularly with kids too. This is the chili mac that we have. And then because it's just the chili like you saw, and we just simply put it over the mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is one of the favorites around the restaurant, right? Everybody eats it, and the kids love it. And so if you want to put a little bit more flavor into it, because if you eat too much mac, you kind of get tired of this of the same flavor. So you put that chili in there with it, and let the two mix up, and it's really very hearty, very savory, and but yet it's again, you've got the protein and you've got the carbs, and it's going to fuel your body, right?
Yep. Doing these videos always makes me hungry. So,
There you go.
okay. So this is the one we just added to the menu. So
Yeah,
why did you add Frito Pie, and what is
Frito
in
pie
your
is
Frito Pie?
man. When I was growing up, right, and I didn't have anything, I didn't have any money. Frito pie was the way that me and my buddies existed, right? Because the way and there's a million and one different versions of this thing. This is kind of a fancy one that we got a picture of here. But the fundamentals of it is no matter where you go, if you're out roughnecking or whatever, and you hit that convenience store in the middle of the day to get your drinks and stuff like that, it's really easy to pick up a can of Hormel chili and a bag of Fritos, right? And this is literally the way it's made
Yeah.
back home, right? Is you get that big bag of Fritos, you take that Hormel chili and you pour it in there and you stir it all up, and you got
Mm.
Frito pie, right? Now, families have expanded on this. They make casseroles out of these types of things, all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to add that back because people would see me eating this, right? I would walk up, because I get in line like everybody else, right? And I go up there and I'd hand the boys a bag of Fritos and I say, here, put this in there and put the chili on top and give me some onions and jalapenos on top of it. And people go, well, what is that, right? Because in the Northwest, there's not a lot of Frito pie places around here, right? And they would say, "Oh, that looks so awesome," and so yeah, and then I would make one for somebody. And so this trend, because I eat these a lot during the day, I fuel myself with these, and it really got to be where more and more and more people were starting to do it. So I said, I think this one's going to be popular. So when we did the menu changes at the beginning of June, I said, let's just add the Frito pie in there and start telling people about it, right? And because we know that most people are going to just love it, right? It's a good. You got the Frito, you got that nice salty corn crispiness, of the chip. You got that again, that brisket and the beans and all that chili seasoning in there. Throw a little jalapenos in there if you want a little more heat. As this person did with the pickles, if you want some of that vinegary tangy flavor with it, you got to add to the savoriness of all this. You got the onion, that white, that really strong white onion that resides in it as well. And by the way, these condiments are always available. The guys have them in the little cups right over there, so you don't have to hesitate to ask for them. Because the basic way that this comes is just the chips with the chili and the cheese, right? And then what this person has done is they've added the condiments, the onions, the pickles, and the jalapenos on top of it, right? But it's really good. It's really savory. The flavors really pop and balance right very well in this dish. And again, well, it may not look like much in that little burrito bowl that we put it in, but by the time you're done with it, you're pretty much done and wanting anything to eat for a while.
I agree. It's very filling. To me, putting jalapenos, onions, and pickles on that is like putting salsa on Mexican food. It just makes it more interesting. I think it adds some great flavors, especially if you like a kick. So I can share out where you can find a list of the fan favorites on the menu on the website. If you go to texasbbq2u.com, you can see that there's an item called menu at the very top. And if you scroll down about halfway down, you will find fan favorites. Down past the pork, past the turkey. Here they are. So we got the boat, we got the cowboy chili, the chili mac, pork loaded fries, and the Frito pie. Is there anything else about what's that?
Yeah, there's one more that's not on there, which is the mac and meat. and we need to probably go look at that. But mac and meat is also on the menu as well, and that's just mac and cheese and your selection of whatever meat you want.
I wondered about that. I wonder if that was supposed to be on there.
Yeah,
Is there anything
and those
else
are
going
all.
on with the menu? Do you still get requests? Like I know that we have the Friday, Saturday, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday specials. It seems like people are always asking you just to put those on the regular menu. Is there any
Yeah,
hope
wintertime.
those getting
In the
added?
wintertime, we do, right at the end of the wintertime, before we got super busy again, we were doing Sunday baked potatoes, right? And basically the way that works is we were baking the potatoes for you, and then just like, and we put that, we split it and put it in a bowl, and then you can start picking your meats. So you can take any one of these things and put it and put it over the top of that baked potato, right? So maybe instead of the French fries, you're going to do the baked potato with it, right? And then you put all the stuff on it, and it just gives it a little bit more of a potatoy texture to the whole thing, and it's just excellent. We use our sauce a lot. We'll bring in sour cream packets and stuff like that. We don't do a lot of traditional sides. We'll have the butter there, of course, and we'll do some sour cream, but we really want you to use the sides and the meats, to really do the augmentation of it. But yeah, and that's a customer request. We've had that customer request since the first day we ever opened. Do baked potatoes, and so we started playing with it on Sundays last year as kind of a Sunday special thing, right? To give the fan favorites a little bit of a boost, because after
Yeah.
church, people that come in and stuff, they really like the having that baked potato option in the wintertime. This time of year, when we're catering so much, and we're like last weekend for Father's Day and stuff, when we're popping out about 600 pounds of food. Unfortunately, we just don't have the bandwidth to do all those fun things, right? We're busy trying not to miss orders, right? But and make sure everybody gets satisfied. There's a picture right there of the pork belly, which is outstanding. It's one of our specials, one of our daily or our weekly specials anyway.
Let me go back to it
And
right
that's turkey,
there. That
yeah,
is
pork belly.
Friday nights, and Saturday is burn-ins.
Yep.
Yep.
Burn in, yeah. I always have to go back and look at what the boys are doing. I let the boys make the decisions on that. One of the really novel things about BBQ2U, people look at me and go, Gary, why don't you know? And it's because really the boys are so into barbecue, right? That I let them make all these decisions about the extras, the specials and stuff. My only rule that I give them is don't start a special and get customers hooked on it, and then decide you don't want to do it anymore. So I really make them think about it before we start offering it to the public. I give Trevor, the guy that's in the back doing most of the cooking. He really embraces a lot of this, and then he was the one who actually came up with wanting to make those great big brownies that we have up on the counter. And he's the one that makes them, and so it's when he's on shift, his 5 days he makes them, and they're the size of small bricks, right? It's not these little bitty things, right? I mean, they're like cakes, right? That he makes, and we facilitate that. We buy him all the brownie mix he wants, and he puts those things together and fills that tray, and he sells them for $3, right? And so we're normally, you would get this little 2 inch by 2 inch thing. You're getting this 6 by 4 thing, right? And it's enough to
Yeah.
feed two people, and it's a really great value. And he has a great time doing it, and he really gets into doing that. But that's just one of those little quirky side things that we have available in the store that you'll never see that on the menu, right? But
Well,
when you
it's
walk
here,
in the
but there's no
store,
picture. We need to add a picture. It's on Chow now, but there's no picture, and it's not here at all. So we'll have to get that
uh,
added.
we'll
They're
have to
pretty
get that out there.
monstrously yummy looking for sure.
Um,
So
and
what else
but yeah,
is going on besides adding Frito Pie to the menu? What else is going on at the restaurant, Gary?
we're super busy. We've got authors doing their thing. We've got the counter takeovers. They're doing their thing. I'm running around trying to keep track of it all. And as always, as the business guy, I have to deal with supply chain issues, and and all kinds of things that are going on, stuff that the public doesn't see in the background, right? And we're trying to stay ahead of some of the economic things that are going on. One of the problems I work on right now is making sure that we always have supplies of the to-go containers, cups, these kinds of things that have the exposure to some of the national economic things you hear so much about. They can take us down in a heartbeat, because if I don't have one of these dishes, or one of these bowls or whatever that I use, and how am I going to give you the food, right? So it's always a challenge, in trying to keep that kind of stuff available. This time of year, it's always difficult just bringing the meats in. It's like for Father's Day. I would, because I have agreements with the suppliers, right? That this is how much a week I'm going to pull in, right? So there's a steady state that we plan for, we engineer for, all these kinds of things. But now we have these, like last weekend was coupled with graduation parties plus Father's Day all at the same time, right? And so we had to bring in 21 cases of extra brisket, just one day, right? And we had to get all that stuff on the pit. I think Carlton and the guys, they probably cooked, I don't know, I want to say it's close to 600 pounds, 700 pounds, right? Just to cover that 48-hour period, right? And by the time we hit Sunday, yeah, we were pretty bare bones back there in the kitchen, and the guys had the pit loaded up, and here we go. And and like the week before the holiday, we had pit failure, right? And so we had to shut the pit down, pull it out from underneath the hood, and basically tear it apart. Put the replacement parts in, get it back under the hood, get the fire started again, and get going again, right? And we were able to give you an idea that failure happened at 6 o'clock on a Saturday night while I was at a catering, right? And I was on the phone with the parts people, which did an outstanding job, by the way. They opened the warehouse for me, right, to get that part, and in Southern California, and they hired a courier to bring it up from Southern California to me. I had those parts in hand by within 12 hours, right? Coming out of Southern California, I had the pit opened,
wow,
fixed, back under there within 14 hours, right? And then, so if you ever wonder what I'm doing, why you don't see me in the store, believe me, the list is endless of the things that I have to do, because I'm running around making sure that no matter what it is, it's coming in that back door before those guys run out of whatever it is they're getting low on, right? We have 3 semis a week that come in there, right, from US Foods and the meat people, and load us up, and we run through a semi load in about 2.5 days. And so, and that's why we have the 3 semis timed like we do. Basically, we get stuff every other day, right?
wow.
We reload that whole kitchen.
Yeah,
Right.
you're
So we
troubleshooting a
are
lot of
example.
things.
We
A
are
lot of things in the
excelling,
background. Wow.
and if we look exhausted, it's because we're pushing a lot of food for a lot of wonderful people. And I can't say enough about our customers. They just absolutely love us. They're extremely patient, because literally this happens a lot. They can call, which they do a good job. We ask them to call if they're questioning whether we're out, right? And sometimes we run out from the time they call to the time they get their car and get there, right? Even though we're trying to hold it back, this kind of things, but the flow is so fast, right? I think my main staff that works the really busy periods, they can load those things out in 2 or 3 minutes. They can load those trays out in 2 or 3 minutes, right? And then the guys at the back are pumping up those big trays for the parties and that kind of stuff, right? And it's really an operation. We've really grown into a really efficient operation. It's a testament to those young men that really do all that hard labor back there. I can't say
Sounds
enough
like
good
it.
stuff about them.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of work, but the community appreciates the quality of food you deliver more than our community, really. It's outside of Gig Harbor for sure. Word
And
has
that's
gotten out. So
a
for
good
those of us that are new, or for the people that are new, can you explain what a counter takeover is real quick?
counter takeover. Yeah, so these are usually they're BPOs, or what used to be known as PTAs, right? They call them volunteer parent organizations now. And these are the football boosters, the basketball boosters, the baseball boosters, the swim team boosters, the gymnastics team boosters, right? If there's a booster club, we basically know who they are and who's running them. And they're coming in, they're trying to buy uniforms or meet some need, for the activities for young people mostly. When we get extra weeks, then always it's the social clubs. So Kiwanis does a lot of stuff with us. Lions Club, Rotary does a lot of stuff with us, for whatever projects they're trying to raise dollars for. But the invitation is to everybody, right? You go tell everybody, come to barbecue to eat, right? Drop your receipt in that little jar that we've got sitting right beside the cash register, right? There, everybody can see it, and you throw your receipt in there, and at the end of the week, we go Monday through Sunday, so you get a whole week, right? Which is different because some restaurants will do this, but they'll do it for a day for you. I'll do it all week for you, so you can. So if you're a booster club, you can plan to have a get together in the store, which a lot of them do, and to come contribute. They tell all their friends, and so this really boosts the the early days of the week, that kind of stuff for us. So it's a win-win for both of us. And on Sunday, I pull all the receipts and I add up all the subtotals, right? And then I give 10% to that organization, right? And people just love. I mean, we got people calling us all the time. We only have 52 weeks in a year, and we just have to tell people, we're booked for the rest of this year, and so next year is your time, right? It's really kind of, I'll tell you how much people love it. This particular week, our takeover couldn't make it. Something happened anyway. So this happens occasionally, and so we have the little stand for the jar up by the cash register. And I walked in there this morning, and there's no jar, because when there's no jar, that means we don't have a fundraiser that week, right? But they were putting the receipts on the shelf where it sits.
Wow.
And so we got those collected and set aside, and we'll add it to the next guy's stuff, right, when they come in next week.
Very enthusiastic givers in this community, apparently.
And remember the philosophy about this, Jennifer. The philosophy here with all this is communities, especially communities like Gig Harbor, they love businesses that give back to the community, right? And so all these things we do, we're give back. So when people come in to buy BBQ2U, not only is it really good food, they know that they're not only purchasing that food, but they're purchasing some activity. You're helping out with some activity around this town. The another big one that I'm getting a lot of compliments on right now is the Gig Harbor farmers market, right? Because it's downtown, and everybody wants to go downtown by the waterfront. It's wonderful. The problem is there's not much parking, right, down there, and so it impedes, particularly those that can't get around well. It impedes them from going. So this year, I sponsored the bus. There's a big 15-passenger bus, and it goes to a couple of different large parking lots up the hill, and then brings them down, drops you off right in front of it, right? And that's what these dollars go to, right? Is we went out to the community, we saw a problem, where we could help out the Waterfront Alliance and that kind of stuff by doing this, and I get so many comments. Right, folks are saying, "Oh, thank you, Gary, for doing that. We want to go to the farmers market. We just decided we couldn't do it because of the parking, but now you've made that happen." So that's what it means to come into BBQ2U and support us like it does, and that's what keeps us very busy and very healthy, right, throughout the year, because people know their dollar goes further with us.
Yeah, giving back into their own communities, into their kids' schools and activities and all the good things, the seniors and all of it. So yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for your time, and thanks for letting us know about all these fan favorites and the new Frito Pie and what's going on in Gig Harbor. And don't work too hard. It kind of makes me tired listening to everything you're into. But thank you for feeding us nutritious food and for taking care of the community. We appreciate you.
Well, you're welcome. I appreciate doing it.
We'll see you next month.
See you guys.